What's up, Tyler? Obviously, we just talked a little bit. This is for the Solar Growth Interview podcast. I call it a podcast, but I haven't really published the audio versions in quite some time just because the numbers were terrible there. But we'll just say it's a Solar Growth show. Thank you. Obviously, this is Tyler with Fusion Power. Tyler, can you give us, just give anyone that's watching this a little background about you and kind of your journey in the solar industry, and then we'll start talking about some of the fun stuff.
Yeah. So my name is Tyler McAllister. I'm one of the owners of Fusion Power, founded Fusion Power in 2017. And we've built a really great sales company and a great sales team and launched into installs a year ago and had a successful launch there and have been just working to continue to grow and add value to the industry and continue to add value to those that work within our company and looking to expand. We're founded and mostly concentrated in Arizona right now. We just opened up an inside sales team in Texas through our call center. That's about it where we're at.
Cool, man. I mean, so what about you personally? So Fusion Power is relatively new. Obviously, it sounds like you guys are focused in one market and looking to expand. But what about you, like personally? Tell us about your, how did you get to running a sales org? Obviously, I'm sure you had some experience selling, I would assume.
Yeah. So I've been doing door-to-door for 17 years. I started doing pest control in 2006 and then jumped into Apex doing alarms from 2007 to 2014, and started having kids, and it got a little taxing on summer sales lifestyle, and I wanted something a little bit more significant long term, and I saw these people starting to transition into solar, and I was like, so I started telling my buddies to go do solar, and then one of my buddies was like, well, why don't you do solar? Like, I don't know, I should go check it out. And so looked into it, opened an office in Albany, New York. I think the first company that I was with, Vivint at the time. I don't know that anyone else was there before us. We were like the first people to open the office. Found out I really love solar. It put life back into my sales career, and it was a product I could really sink my teeth into and get behind. And just kind of started seeing my sales career blossom again. I've always been into, management, recruiting, training. That's one of my strong passions. I love training and working with guys to help them do this at a high level. And anyway, when I got into solar, I started getting back into the leadership aspect of it again. And at that point, I had been doing it for 10 years. And I said, I really want to stretch myself and add as much value as I possibly can. So I decided to start my own company called Fusion Power, where I could take all the things that I had been trained and learning and had figured out over the last 10 years and really put it into practice, into building a business where I could, at a higher level, add value to people's life. And so I founded Fusion Power in 2017, and I've loved it ever since. Solar's been great.
That's awesome, man. So you're an OG. You've been in solar for a long time. I'm sure it's changed quite a bit, I would assume. So if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 38.
Okay, 38. Dude, you do not look 38. I would
thank you.
I mean, I'm 31, but maybe it's the beard, which is also marvelous, by the way. I'm super
thank you so much.
The weirdest compliments ever. So I guess you came from pest control and alarm security. How do have those industries changed since you were there, from what you know, and how do they compare to solar? Do you still think that solar is significantly, obviously it seems that you think it's a more attractive industry. It puts life in you, and those other industries didn't. Do you think that those industries are harder sales? And if so, why do you think not more people come over to solar?
Oh, we're seeing a mass exodus from those industries into solar, from alarms to satellite to pest control. Those guys are getting either gobbled up by solar companies, or they're moving by the masses. Almost all of them have been in talks with and considering moving over to solar. So I've seen that for sure. Just as far as speaking about the difference between the two products and the two sales is, I think pest control is a phenomenal product. It's a great way for guys to get started in the industry. I think that it comes with an incredible grind. I don't know that anyone outworks pest control guys. Those guys are just freaking monsters. The numbers of hours that they put in on a daily basis is incredible. When you start maturing and having kids, I think you find yourself in that industry. You want to start building a dealership or something else that you can sell off that clientele. At some point, you don't want to be working those kinds of crazy hours day in and day out. And so some people might feel like a step up from that is alarms, because you have a little bit bigger commission. But I mean, we saw a door-to-door contest last year. Guys were throwing down like crazy in pest control. So those guys were making mad money. Guys in alarms, they're making phenomenal money. I think alarms might draw a slightly more older in age crowd. I don't necessarily say mature, but mature in age. And but there's a balance question in your life that comes when you start doing summer programs and you start having kids and you start getting married. And I was at Apex for a long time. Like, I used to recruit with Todd Peterson. He would come out to Idaho and do recruiting events with us. He'd sit across the dinner table and pay the bill and help us recruit people. So I've seen how that industry has matured, and the guys that have stayed around for over a decade, they started out in the same seats as I was in. They went from, pest control, satellite, alarms, built out. And then, as those guys matured, they kind of transitioned into solar because it became a lot more stable. It was a year-round product and a little bit more of a mature in-home consultation, a much, much bigger contract. And you can kind of slow down the pace of life at the same time increasing your potential earnings. On average, your earnings are higher. And so just the balance and the feasibility. Also, for me, selling alarms, pest control and alarms, it's emotionally taxing in that you're going out there to either convince someone to spend money that they're not currently spending, or you're doing switchovers. And switchovers, you're buying out contracts and you have to finagle with the companies that are trying to retain those customers. So there's an emotional draw on your spirit when you're going out and doing that stuff hardcore. Whereas solar we're literally putting money in people's pockets, and we're just asking them to switch from a utility company that they hate, move over to another alternative form of power, and let's save you money day one. So for me, emotionally, I don't have to, it just doesn't take as much. You don't have to put on as much of a performance, if you want to say that. Like, you don't have to bring so much to the table to get this person to move to make these big decisions. Solar really is super chill. I love it.
It's awesome. And that's a lot of what you just touched on is why I came to solar. I was doing marketing, but originally I was a fitness manager, sales manager, and for personal training and personal trainers. And I remember like selling. I mean, my goal was we have to sell like $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 packages of personal training sessions. And then after you sell it, you have to go and actually train all those sessions. And you're talking about like 20 plus hours of work where you're watching people exercise, but you have to be like this high energy coach. But just having that. And also the thing is like, a majority of people probably shouldn't be spending $1,500 a month on personal training if they don't have that laying around. So it was like, that was just it was a challenging sale. And like, we always saw reps that came in, they knew about fitness, they knew about exercise, they were really great persons. They were really good people persons, and they would still just struggle because of that. It was a tough sale. And then like, you look at other industries where sometimes if it's something that like has to happen, like it's a repair, or like their roof blows off and they need a new roof. Like, a lot of those other industries rely on the people that have to have something. And solar is different in that you really is like, it can, almost any homeowner can take advantage, and most time it makes perfect sense, and it's like an easy, like, why wouldn't you do it? I think that's the reason that this is such a great industry. And then one of the things you mentioned was you feel when you're selling other things, sometimes it can feel like you're getting into character, or like you have to be this high energy, like this, you have to be laser focused. And I'm not saying that solar reps aren't laser focused.
We have to create a ton of emotion, right?
Yeah, there's
a ton of emotion.
There's less room for error too. I think with solar, I think you're able to, I've been saying this for months now. There's a lot of people in solar that really don't focus on their sales ability, or they don't spend the time on their business that you might have to in other industries, because solar is so chill. You can kind of, once you have a solid book of business, you can like fart around and fall into 3-4 deals a month. And then obviously that point is where you maybe look like you did to starting your own business, taking the info and the knowledge that you know and training others. So going back to like different industries, obviously you are a sales guy. You have worked in different industries. You have hired and recruited people, I'm assuming, from various different industries. Mm-hmm. What would you say is I guess, which one of those industries do you think is the easiest transition to solar? So like if you're a solar recruiter and you're like, I want to go and find the best pest control knocker, best pest control sales guys, and see if I can maybe bring them over to my company. Like, is there any specific industry that you think has the shortest learning curve?
It's different. So alarm guys come over to solar and they freak out because it's not same day and they're not walking out with like guaranteed contract money and panels on the roof. And so they're like, I have to actually make an appointment, and people keep those like that. You know, you have this anxiety about the idea that someone's actually going to follow up with you and want to see your face the next day. And so those guys have to get over that. And it's like, when you ask for people something they really want and save some money, they're going to show up for the appointment the next day. So that's where those guys have to get over that. And then pest control guys, it's just like, hey, this is a little bit, we're going to slow this down. You know, we're not going to hammer 800 doors in a day and just blow through a neighborhood. We're going to do professional networking. We're going to get to know the neighborhood. They're going to see you here consistently in this neighborhood for several months, and you're going to be the solar guy, and you're not going to be 100 miles away from this neighborhood in 4 months. Like, you're going to be here a lot. And for them to kind of slow down and not just blow through the doors like a wildfire, but to actually have a connective relationship with these people, because this dude that's saying no to you today, his neighbor is going to go solar with you, and you're going to end up having another conversation with that guy. And so I like that aspect of it because it brings a little bit more connection to the sales process. And I always say this in my trainings: I hate knocking doors, but I love talking to people. It's a waste of time to knock an empty door, and it's a waste of time to just be walking door to door. But if I get someone I can actually talk to, I love that, because it's an opportunity for me to connect and for me to help somebody. And that's what this is all about. And so solar is much more transitioning the mindset to, hey, let's settle this down. Let's connect with people. Let's build a book of business and a rapport that's going to be a generating revenue source for you and a referral machine. And we're just going to approach this differently. Now, the pest control guys that aren't going to be closing, they can keep doing exactly what they're doing. So the transition for them is, I think, easier, because instead of signing up somebody at the door, like what I used to do, you have to sell someone pest control. You have to get them to agree. You have to get them to buy into the price, and then they sign the contract and take payment info right there. Whereas if they're setting appointments for solar, they can get paid as much or more than a pest control account. And they don't have to do any of that. All they have to do is make sure the person is there for the guy to show up the next day and close the deal. So it's very simple if they want to be lead setters in solar and make the same money they do in pest control, or actually more. We can pay those guys more just to set a lead. So and we're seeing that those guys are being gobbled up, man. Pest control guys kill it. So we want to talk to all those pest control guys. Those guys know how to work.
Yeah, I like that. I remember I've talked about this before for anyone that watches every episode. the dozens of people, that there was once a vacuum sales guy who came to my door, and he was selling one of those Kirby like $1,500, $1,600 vacuums, and he worked his ass off. Like, it was like, dude, I was like, hey, I want you to sell solar. And it didn't end up working out, but like, I talked to him a little bit more after that. But I just remember, like, he came to my door and I was like, dude, this is like such a more vigorous sale. Like, there's so much more that goes into it. Like, and it's a purchase too. It's a big purchase right there on the spot, trying to get someone to pay $2,000 or whatever it is for a vacuum. And it's just it's interesting. Door-to-door sales, there's so many, because it is the same, but at the same time, it is different. And I think one of the things is that in other industries, it does seem like the people that are really succeeding over there are hard workers. And in solar, there's people that are succeeding that are hard workers. And that's going to start to but it's probably going to start to change, where it's going to become harder and harder because it's going to be more competitive as more and more people come over.
And I think there is a common thread across all of these industries, which we call emotional intelligence. Dudes that have emotional intelligence, that don't ride the high roller coaster when they get a sale, and don't ride the depression when they have a sale cancel. They can just kind of stay right here, chill in the middle. Those guys do well in every industry. And those guys, when they come over, and when I find someone I feel like has really high emotional intelligence, and they can stay on that level playing field and just work their butt off, those are the guys that are really mature, that do phenomenal in solar. Yeah,
and it's also just the consistency of it. There's guys that you see that they work when they feel like their back's up against the wall, and then they coast when I closed 5 deals last week. I'm gonna take the week off or whatever. And that's the kind of the same mindset, is being consistent and focusing on the principles rather than the results, and making sure that you're working the same no matter how many deals you closed last week. And it's the same with online leads too. Is I think a lot of times I've had guys that they come to me and they purchase online leads, and they I'm tired. I'm knocking doors, but I'm tired. Like, I want it to be easier. And number one, that's not the best reason to go to online leads. Like, I think it's smart to diversify where you're getting leads from, but at the same time, there's still work. Like, you still have to call and be diligent, and you still have to follow up consistently and repeatedly, and making sure that you're treating it just like you would with any lead. And then there's times where I've done that and provide leads. I'm like, hey, how's it going? He's like, hey man, I'm not getting the answers I want. And but every time I talk to him, since he bought leads from me, he's sitting at home playing Xbox. He just thought he could stop knocking doors and stop. He paid money because he didn't want to work as hard. And it's just not, I don't know, that kind of roller coaster of effort seems to provide that same roller coaster of results. And the people that have that emotional instability, really you can see it. And even when some guys that post on Facebook, you see their ups and their downs. And there's definitely a few people that are successful like that, but there's a lot more that probably aren't as successful as they would like to be. What do you think, as a person who's hired and managed people, if you were looking for someone who maybe has never knocked doors before, what is the quality or the trait or characteristic that you kind of think is most important that you look for when potentially hiring somebody?
Yeah, so there's a really good question I think everyone should ask is, tell me about your most recent successful experience. And you'll get all kinds of answers. So one guy's like, hey, I'm 90 days off drugs, and whatever. So, or someone says, I was in the pro NFL and I got hurt, and you learn really quickly who you're sitting across from. Or some guy was a pro athlete, and or a junior Olympian. Some people just finished grad school, but learning what they're proud of tells you a lot about the tenacity of this person and the level of their achievement that they consider achievement. Because what we're looking for is grit and tenacity, the ability to withstand the storm that's thrown at them. And I want to know specifically the level of perseverance that this guy is going to give us whenever we put our time and sweat equity into this person. What kind of return are we going to get from this guy? Because We have limited resources as far as who we can train up to become a professional in this field. And our resources are chewed up by the wrong kind of people. And so I think we've gotten very good at filtering who we're bringing into our culture and our industry. We want to fill the room with all-stars, with people that are going to be, that have very high potential. I love people that have been athletes in their past, wrestlers especially, football players. Those guys are phenomenal. And then the other thing I like to ask them is I don't try to sell them necessarily on the job. I say, hey, just so you know, we have a lot of people that walk out of this thing that doesn't work out for them. And here's why. They hate X, Y, and Z about this job and they can't take it. And then I just let them answer to that. And they'll say, well, I don't think that's me because, or, whatever it is, but I want to understand what's underneath the skin, because everyone wants to come in and sell you and be a facade and make you feel like they're worthy to be on the team. They want to be picked, but they'll never show up the next day. And you think you just did this amazing interview and you just sold them super hard. But really, I think you should do the opposite. Don't try to sell people. Sell your company on what you guys are doing and what you have, and let them kind of come to the table and say, here's why I feel qualified to be here, and here's what I would contribute. And so I think flipping that, don't grovel.
Yeah, it reminds me of, I spoke with Solar Lily a few weeks ago or a month ago, I guess, time flies. And I remember, she said, we were talking about another guy who was Jonathan Bernasso, but we were talking about how the way he sells and the way that he's successful is because he plays not necessarily hard to get, but almost indifferent with the homeowner. These are the numbers. This is how the process works. This is what you're going to be able to get, and basically it's option A or option B. And no matter what, I'm cool either way. Basically, playing hard to get in the way that the homeowner feels like they have to qualify to them, they're the ones that want to prove it. And it sounds like you kind of are the same way with hiring. And the other thing I like about what you've said on two things that we've talked about so far is you're not wasting time on bad doors, or you're not wasting time on poor candidates, where a lot of people in solar seem to go for it's a numbers game approach, and they will just knock every single door, as many doors as possible, and they'll hire 50 people and not provide them with any training, and then they know that 48 of them are going to quit. So it definitely is refreshing, I guess, compared to a lot of people that I see in the industry. What do you?
Can I tell you the worst people to hire?
Yes, that's there you go. You go for it.
People that have experience in the industry that want the world.
You mean the people that ask for the lowest possible red line, and they ask for?
They want things up front. They want things up front before they've added value to your company. And they want to use their clout from their experience in the past. And those guys suck. They flop every time. You're chasing around your money. You're asking them when they're going to perform. You're finding out they're hopping around at other companies. Those guys are the worst. So
yeah, that's what I remember when I used to hire people in both the fitness world, and I also worked in city government for Parks and Recreation for a while. And I remember you always look at the resumes, and I know solar companies really don't care about resumes, or at least most don't. But you would see these people that have a different job every 2 months, and it would just be yeah, that's I don't even want to sit down with them, because if they do win me over, I know it's not going to work out. And you see that in solar too, are these guys that are always hopping from one company to the next, looking for that perfect situation. And
Kyle, sorry to interrupt you, when these guys get hired, or if you guys, just a tip, if you guys are interviewing with another solar company that you want to hitch your wagon to, don't tell them how everyone screwed you, or how, these guys did you wrong, and these guys did you wrong, and this guy did you wrong, because I have never been screwed in the industry. I have never not been paid what I'm owed. I've been doing this for 17 years, and I've made very good decisions, and I follow through with my word and my commitments. I don't have those stories to go share, and the people that share those stories are going to be sharing that story about you someday when they're sitting at someone else's office getting recruited about, something they failed here. And so instead of following through with their commitments, they're going to make you the bad guy, and they're going to go keep telling that story and telling that story. So I've noticed that's a red flag to me when people come in and they have all these stories to tell about everyone that's done them wrong. I'm very leery about those people, because it's almost always turned out to be the same story when they've moved on from us.
I find it extremely impressive that you've never been screwed in this industry, by the way. It does show that you make smart decisions, because I have been screwed before. But one of the things that I've realized is, are you a fan of Jocko Willink?
I don't even know who
that is. No? Okay, so he's an ex-Navy SEAL, but he has a book called Extreme Ownership, and he has...
Oh, I do know the book.
Yeah, he had a book called Extreme Ownership. He has a podcast. He's on Joe Rogan. He's a really cool dude. But one of the things that when I read the book recently, was you realize it's like, even if someone did do you wrong, like you were in that situation because of yourself. So like you were saying, doing the research or missing the red flags or whatever it was, you put yourself in that position, and so you can blame them, but at the end of the day, the only person who really has ownership over that was you, because at some point, that's what we all need to do, is we all need to take more ownership of the position that we're in. So if we get screwed, okay, what did we do wrong that put us in a position to get screwed? What can we do to prevent that? And I think once you start to do that, it just kind of it's enlightening in a way. Like you start to realize that you do have control over everything. But it's also just freeing, because your mindset has shifted. So you're not just blaming everybody else for everything that goes wrong. You figure out that you're in control, and you can make sure that it doesn't happen again.
And to your point, so some of these guys that tell these sob stories, if they were to live through my experiences, they would probably say, Tyler McAllister has been screwed, or I've been screwed. But those experiences that I've had in the past, I've looked at them, and like you said, I've taken ownership. I'm like, well, I signed that contract and I didn't read it. That's not what we said was going to happen, but that's what was in there, and that's my fault. And so, here's this, or this is the response from that. So I wasn't screwed. I just didn't, I learned from that. And so, okay, moving forward, I'm going to make sure X, Y, and Z. And you just learn from it. And you move on. Yeah. You don't use it as a crutch.
And it's also, I think one of the things too is, you see it within the Facebook groups, is people always there's so much drama, and it's entertaining, sure, but it is a bunch of nonsense, really. And it's like, when you're the one complaining about somebody else, even if that whatever you're saying is 100% true, it doesn't do you any favors to actually like be the one shouting on the rooftops. 50%, everyone's sitting there listening and watching, and they're making these judgments on you that might not even be accurate, but because you're trying to bring it out there and make it public, it's just not a very professional look. And
it makes you look small.
It makes you look small, and then you're burning, I don't know about burning, but I guess you are burning potential bridges in the future that maybe you will want to cross one day. And the fact that they remember that and associate that with you is going to hurt those chances.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and because solar is a small industry, I mean, it's not like there's these.
But it's also, sorry, just to add into that, Kyle, it's when you see people looking backwards a lot, like that's what's happening when these people are coming in and airing all of their grievances. They're stuck looking in their rearview mirror, and these people aren't someone that you necessarily see moving forward. The people are doing really big things, significant things. There's so much movement in their life that the things that happen are a byproduct of taking massive action, and they're not looking in the rearview mirror, and they're not airing those grievances. They're moving forward, because what's ahead is way more important and way valuable than what's behind. And it makes people look small when they air their grievances on little things. It's like, that guy's stuck.
Yeah, and I like going back to tying it all into the question that you ask with people, is asking them about their recent successes or recent failures. Like when you get people talking about that allows you to identify not necessarily specific skills that they have, but it kind of identifies helps you to identify how they view themselves in the story. Are they always the victim, or are they always being victimized? Is there other people that are responsible for their past losses, but they're in charge of their past successes? And when you ask questions like that, you kind of get a peek into their mind, and that's important when we're looking at successful sales guys. But also, the other thing about solar is you want someone who's going to be there for the long haul. You don't want someone who you're going to put all your effort into and they're going to be at a different company in 6 months. And that's part of the fun, I guess, about solar. So you're running your company different than a lot of people that I know, because a lot of people just literally hire as many people as possible. Tell me about your hiring process. Are you always hiring people? Do you hire them in batches? Do you hire them one at a time? Like, what is your process like for hiring and onboarding somebody?
Yeah, so we have a recruiting service. So every Monday and every Wednesday, we have about 10 to 15 people that show up in our sales office from a recruiting service. We'll do a mass preliminary presentation, and then we'll kind of whittle down people that don't feel like this is in line with what they're looking for. So they kind of leave, and then the people left over want to be interviewed by leadership managers or owners of the company, and we'll take them and interview them one by one. So that's a very different experience than someone that's coming into our company from another company, or a friend of one of the sales guys that's working with us. They come in, so those are very different experiences. The people that come in to these recruiting meetings usually don't have any background with solar or door to door, and so we are looking for people that are that have the attributes that we're looking for. People that are tenacious, people that have grit, people that are more entrepreneur minded, and people that aren't looking for the 9 to 5. They're, the fact that we're not going to offer them health insurance, they're not freaking out, because that doesn't come with the territory. So for the people that do that say that they want to be a part of our company from those meetings, we don't actually onboard them until they're willing to go out with one of our closers or one of our lead setters for 3 days. Because within those first 3 days, they'll usually drop off and never come back. And last year we spent $20,000+ on uniforms of people that ended up never coming to work with us. And then you talk about the time consuming aspect of giving HR a task to go onboard this person, for us trying to follow up and get documentation for these people that really have no interest in working with us. So we want to weed those people out really quickly. And then one of the things I love Tony Robbins says is good salesmen aren't made, they're found. And I kind of find that that's really true. A lot of people that have risen up to be significant in the industry, we give them a vehicle to exercise their abilities in, and we give them steering, coaching, and guidance to really help these people shine. But we are not turning someone from something they're not into what they are today. Really, people are discovered in a way in this industry, and so we want to really look for those kinds of people that we can help rise up and shine and be impactful. And all these people are looking for is a vehicle to go and do that. So a little bit of time with them, a little bit of working, a little bit of coaching quickly shows us the people that we want to invest into our time.
And also, I think the way you have it structured is the people, there are people that would look at that and say, you want me to shadow for 3 days before I even get started with my training? Like, there's some people that would look at that as a waste of time. And obviously those are the people that you don't want. It's like you're getting them to show their commitment level before you waste any energy on them. And then the other thing is I love that, because when you think about it if you were to onboard them, and however, it sounds like your onboard process is maybe longer and more thorough than a lot of other companies, but
it's not. It's just official. Like, we do things.
Well, I know, but that's more thorough than 95% of solar companies.
Yeah.
When you have the procedures and the training, and you've done all that, because you're right. In those first 3 days of following and learning, a lot of people drop off in that time.
Yeah.
Or if you do that first, you don't have to waste your energy training those people. So let me ask you, what is your once they're onboarded, like what percentage of reps do you think will still be there in 6 months? Because I'm assuming it's higher than some of the other companies.
I don't know what it is, because we have a lot of recruiting. I think the industry is 1 in 10. I mean, you bring 10 people that say they really want to do it, and in 6 months you're going to have one of those 10 people. So as much as we filter out and we don't just bring everybody into the company, because that's not productive, we still hire a ton of people, and you're just going to have a lot of fallout. Now, the fallout is way less when these are warm recruits that are friends of friends. Mm-hmm. They already have a connection and a relationship, or, these people are moving from this sales company to our company. The fallout there is very low. We have, as far as people that are performing within a 12-month period, we have a very high retention rate. We have people that have been with us for 5 years, which is a very long time in the industry. It's hard to keep someone in the industry, in my opinion, for over 18 months. Unless you're doing a really good job at creating culture, helping these guys feel like you're adding value to them, because they're going to go start shopping after 18 months and looking for, if you're not as a company adding the value that they feel like you are being paid for, we're being paid by these guys essentially by their efforts, then they're going to go look somewhere else, or they're going to leave the industry. And so as far as retention goes, I think we have a phenomenal job retaining. You're going to have a lot of fallout if you pull people in through the door. Cold recruiting, which we do a lot of, that's just going to happen. But the excuses to quit, we don't want those excuses to be on us, Kyle. So we have a very specific process when we onboard someone. We have orientation, which gives them all the software guidelines, how to use everything. That's 1 day. We have 3 days of boot camp. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have boot camp for an hour and a half, where we give them just a really quick run through preliminary. We have them hitched to a mentor that's going to walk them through the whole process. It's going to help hold their hand through the first 10 sales, so they know exactly how to sell everything before they're just independent. And they're going to have their faith increased on how to sell, and that this product works by being hitched to a really high producer that's selling, 3, 4, 5, 6 every single week. And these guys are so we give them everything. Plus we have online training. We have in-classroom training every single week for these guys that want to come. So there's nothing that we're leaving on our plate that is saying this guy quit because of us. It's just, some are going to choose to do it and some aren't. We can't control that. We can give the resources to the right people and do the best we can there.
Yeah, you're taking extreme ownership of everything that you can to pretty much do your part as you see it. And then if the reps buy in, that's great. If they don't, that's part of the process too. Yeah. What do you say, or how? My question is, for reps that come on, I'm sure you occasionally have people that are reluctant or say they don't need the mentor deals. I don't need to work with a mentor. I know what I'm doing. Whatever it is, like, what do you say, or how do you position the mentoring to make it so that even those that are reluctant go and understand the importance of it?
We don't make anyone do it. So if someone's like, "Oh, I don't need that," okay. Here's, to stay in good standing in the company, you need to have 3 accounts a month. And if you don't have 3 accounts a month, you're not within good standing of the business. And so your situation is going to change after those first 3 months. You'll, and then you have another, not 3 months, after that first month. And then you have another month. If you don't hit the quota again, then we're going to decide that we don't want to do business with you.
So it's recommended, not mandatory. But obviously, if someone is struggling and they don't take advantage of it, then that's once again one of those warning flags or bad signs that they're not the type of person for you.
Sure. I mean, some guys have come in and just slayed it, and they haven't needed hardly a small hand to just be like, here's, a little guidance, and then they just take off. So we've had some of those guys come in and they came from the alarm world and they just threw down and they didn't need hardly any help at all. So hey, go do whatever you want. I don't care. We're not going to slow you down. But then we have the people too who are just really self-conscious of anyone making a penny on them at all. And so they don't see the value add of other people around them in their life. They just see it as a cost. They don't see it as a value add. And that's a huge red flag to us, because our core values are family first, add value, and tenacious grit. hands on camera here. And, you know, that's how we grow as a team, as a company, and as a community, and as a family unit. We add value to one another, and we want to seek that, to give value to one another. And if we're in a mindset and an attitude of just detracting and pulling from and sucking from the system, but not putting anything back in to replace it, that mentality is toxic, and it doesn't work in our culture at all. So those people will find themselves out, and they really don't make money. I mean, those guys don't last long. Even the guys.
I just posted a graphic /post /video. I made it into like 3 different things, but it was like the 12 tips for new solar reps. And the number one thing, which I grabbed from, I forgot who it was from, but the number one tip was find a mentor, not a red line. And I think that is I think that's like one of the most important things that people can realize is chasing the lowest red line is very rarely going to end up in the situation that's going to be best for you. And you see that with a lot of times the people in the Facebook groups or the companies that people maybe have issues with, or sometimes the companies are the people that they're blasting in those rants about they weren't happy with the results they got from the partnership or whatever. A lot of times those are the people that are always talking about, we have the lowest red lines in the country. You can't, because what they're not providing any value on top of it. And then you find out is after you close a few deals, you find out that their operations also aren't what you were hoping for. And then those are things that you have to take into account. And so the value that the company provides needs to always be considered. Just telling somebody a red line is not very helpful in making a decision once you're educated in this industry.
Yeah, and if a company wants to make a certain red line on a contractor or sales rep, then it's really important that company shares what we're doing for you to compensate ourselves for that red line, right? And you definitely need systems in place to be successful. Kevin O'Leary, who's one of the sharks on Shark Tank, he talks about some of his
Wonderful business. Is his official name.
Mr. Wonderful, yeah. And that guy's a brutal shark, and he's all about money. But when you look at his business ethics and his morals on how to run businesses, he's a huge proponent of partnership. He had a massive company that he realized he was lacking some of the skills to run that business effectively. And he partnered with somebody who had a very high skill set in an area that he needed. And he gave that guy 50% of the company. And everyone was like, why did you give him such a huge percentage? And he said, because together we'd become way more than I could alone. And I wanted him to be highly incentivized to do his job really well, because I needed him to do his job really, really well. And he just saw the value in what that guy could bring. Yes, he was giving away 50% of everything that he had built by himself, but he knew that would be, his portion would be substantially better if they had this partnership. And I think a partnership's that way. It's what can you bring to the table to help, 1 + 1 = 3. And, having that attitude.
Yeah. Having an attitude that it's best for everyone to have skin in the game. And you see 100%. That too with, that's one of the things in, the marketing side, lead gen side, I always strive for. And one of the reasons that I pretty much got exhausted was because I was always trying to be a performance-based marketing guy. And the trouble that I had, or what I didn't have, was the filter, just like with hiring employees, is filter the clients that I decided to bring on in this partnership, because you have to make sure, number one, that they're going to be able to close at the rates that we want to, but then number two, that they're going to communicate, that their install process is quick, that they talk to you after the install process, they actually follow through with paying you. And that kind of stuff is, it's in a perfect world, yeah, everyone would have skin in the game, but there are a lot of, kind of check boxes that you have to figure out to make sure that works for everybody. But I think that's one of the, also it always cracks me up because you see these posts in the Facebook groups like, hey, anyone want to do lead gen with a revenue split or getting paid on the back end? I'll pay you $1,000 per deal. And it's like, okay, well, at that point, why would we not just do it ourselves? Like, because there is a lot of value in providing a warm lead, a good lead, not just a name and a number, but like a lead that's interested in actually wanting to talk to somebody. And I think finding the right partnerships and value is ultimately kind of where the industry is going. And that's why I think companies like yours and companies all over the country, the ones that are really successful, are bringing as much as they can in-house because they want to provide as much value to reps because they want reps to come to their company. I love that you mentioned Shark Tank. I'm a huge fan of Shark Tank. What shark do you think would be the best door-to-door solar salesman?
Kevin O'Leary is just a sales guy through and through. So
I could see Kevin being very successful indoors.
Yeah.
Mark Cuban, I don't think would do as well, but I don't think he would care. I don't know. I could.
He's actually done door to door.
He did. I know he did initially back in the day, but I guess back in the day, because the other thing is Barbara. Barbara is a real estate shark, right? I mean, she's probably relentless, I would assume.
Totally.
It's interesting. I'm sure they would all succeed. I don't think any of them would really fail, but it's interesting to think about. Or if you were like hiring, if you had to hire one, which one would you hire? Robert has that positive energy.
Yeah.
That a lot of people relate to. But
I mean, Mark Cuban's a billionaire, so I'd take him. He's
that's big. What you take the person that you wouldn't mind spending a day knocking doors with, right? What can you learn from? With that, I was going to ask you. I want to hear about your referral. I think you referred to it earlier as like your referral machine, like your company's ability to take not only close deals but keep the relationship and manage the relationship to kind of get referrals, but doing it in a standardized way, which is what I think a lot of people struggle with, is doing it in a standardized and consistent way so that you expect these referrals, because a lot of the people that are hammering the doors and that are some of the best door knockers, that's one of the things they struggle with, is building that referral machine, because then they're always on the doors, otherwise they're not making any money. What do you think is the key or the tips that you have for someone who they don't feel like they're getting as many referrals as they should be?
Stay in one area longer.
That's just like Jake Hess told me in a podcast. Gosh, man, time really does fly. I was like, earlier this week. It had to be a few weeks ago. He was telling me that he spent 2 years in one area and sell 700 deals in the one little city rather than the people that go every single different place. But that's your number one recommendation?
Yeah. So when I was selling out in New York, I hunkered down in this little town called Schenectady. And there was this one street, and it had really well-established houses, pretty big houses on it. And everyone there was pretty wealthy. But what I found out in that area is everyone knew each other, especially the wealthy people were more connected than the other communities. And so I cracked the egg. I kept knocking the street. I got rejected. Then I got one. And then Vinny was like, well, go talk to so-and-so, go talk to so-and-so. And I went probably 3 months without having to knock doors because I was so busy with referrals. And New York is a little bit different than Arizona in that people have generational families there. People have stayed there for a long time. Arizona is a newer market, a newer state, and people here are more transient. They're in and out with work and stuff, but people there they know each other. Everyone's got a guy for everything. So I really dug into referrals hardcore there. And then when I came here to Arizona, I had to adapt because it was very different. But kind of like Jake Hess, I found a neighborhood and I got really smart with it. And it was a new build neighborhood. They were building brand new houses every single week. And I got to know the real estate agent who was in the closing office up at the front of the neighborhood. And I kept coming in there asking for floor plans. And he's like, hey, so what is it that you're doing? I'm like, I'm a solar guy. And he's like, oh, well, how does that work? And he was spending like 3 to 6 months getting these people credit approved to buy these houses. The houses were like $100,000 to $150,000 at the time. And I just told him, I was like, hey man, every time you close a home, just let me know when that house closes, and I'll just want to be the first person to be there. And so pretty soon he was closing homes using my name, kind of talking about solar and basically setting up the pitch for me. And I ended up selling on the last street of this development. They had, I think they had 45 homes. I'd have to go back and count, but they had 45 homes. I had 29 of those homes that had gone solar with me. In that little new build community, I had over 80 accounts just in that little neighborhood, and everybody knew me. I was the solar guy. I didn't lose a single one of my accounts that switched over to any other solar company. When I did this, I worked at a previous company, and I won an award that quarter for having 100% of my leads transition to install, and nobody in the company had ever done that before. And any day I went out to go knock with my sales reps, they're like, dude, I feel like I go out and I knock doors, and I feel like you go out and you sell solar, because 1 and 2 doors I'm creating a lead with, and those leads are signing up with me the next day. And it's because of the rapport I built in that community. Everybody knew me. I knew everyone's name. I knew everyone's story. I knew the influencers in the neighborhood. I knew the real estate agent that was closing all the homes with these people, and they had good experiences with him. He was dropping my name. I had solar signs out in the front of everyone's yard. We were so busy that we had a forklift that just permanently was parked in the end of their cul-de-sac. And I would just say, hey, sorry guys, this lift's out here. I just want you guys to know we'll be done. As soon as all these solar homes are done going solar, we're going to take that out. But we're just too busy. We're doing solar almost on a daily basis out here. We're just leaving that there. They're like, oh, I wonder what that was for. And they're looking at the windows when they're coming home from work. They're seeing their neighbors going solar in the morning. They're seeing their neighbors going solar in the evening. And it just compounds and compounds. And anytime someone was considering going solar or even considering jumping off the train, their neighbors would pull them back in because they'd have these community barbecues and meetings. And anyway, I know I would not have had that success if I was just burning through that neighborhood and bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. So when I do door knocking and I'm tracking notes on these homes, when someone gives me a no that I think is just like my timing was wrong, I'll put a note in that house. And I went through and I made sure I knew every person's name that bought the home. I found a whole bunch of articles and information about their community, about things that were happening. I knew the name of their floor plan. I knew exactly what their square footage was. I knew their exact date that they moved in. And so I would approach these doors way differently than other sales reps were approaching these doors. And I had just an incredibly high success rate. And because they had high confidence working with me, it was super easy for me to ask them for referrals, and I would get referrals left and right. And my closing percentage was just through the roof. I think I went over 3 months without ever having a no, like at 100% closing rate for at least 3 months straight. I got lazy on. I remember the one house I got my first no on after a while, and I was annoyed at myself because I got lazy, because I had such a track record. I knew I got lazy and overconfident in this house, and I blew it. And I was like, okay, I got to stay sharp. I can't just, these things aren't just flying in the door. Like, I'm doing something right to make these happen.
Be on such a hot streak though, where someone says no and you're like, what'd you say? That's pretty incredible. You mentioned near the beginning of this chat about how you also are a fan of and participate with like kind of traditional networking and forming those relationships with potential referral partners. And like, that was just one example of a real estate agent that was working in this development. Can you give another example of like a great referral partner in a different industry that you had a lot of success partnering with them, and in the end, even though it wasn't a short-term return, in the long term, it did result in you getting a lot of business?
When you say different industry, what do you mean? Like
just someone other than a real estate agent. So just another example.
Well, just an example in a community a little bit further south of that, there was this preacher or pastor that everybody knew. And so he's the guy that you want to go sell first. So you link up with that guy. there was a sheriff in this one neighborhood. Everybody knew the sheriff. So again, you're going to go sell the sheriff first, and he's going to be your referral. When you knock on doors, you're like, hey, do you guys know Sheriff Joe down the street, or whatever his name is? And then when people at the table have questions or whatever, you just let Sheriff Joe or whoever know, like, hey, if I ever call you and I'm sitting with a customer, I appreciate any help with that. And you just throw them a bone. Say, hey, every time you take a phone call for me, you get $50, whatever it is. You keep them involved in your process, and you help them feel ownership and engaged in what you're doing. And you're helping them feel like they're helping other people too, which they are. So connecting, we call those people connectors. Every community has connectors. There's people that everyone knows. So reach out to those people first. Another one is in senior communities, they have activity centers, and they have the community centers, and they have a calendar in there. And these people live in these retirement communities because they rely on entertainment being brought to them, or activities where they can come together and get social. So always go to those retirement centers and ask at the front desk, hey, can I get on the schedule to do a solar presentation? And sometimes old people trust these official solar presentations at the community center at a certain time, and they'll put it on their calendar, and you'll have like 15 to 20 of these old people show up that would never have answered the door to you or wouldn't have trusted you to come in, because now all their peers are there. They're all going to say yes to these things together. You're going to do this mass presentation, and then you're going to go to their home on an individual basis and be like, hey, Marlene just signed up, and hey, Pearl just signed up, and now they're all going to kind of do it together versus picking them off one by one, and they feel vulnerable. So those are just some approaches that are
interesting. I love that. It's the seminar approach, the pitching to everybody at once. But then once people start heading back towards the back table, there's everyone fear of missing out. Like, I have to get this too. And it causes the stampede that you sometimes see with a lot of those really good speakers.
And when you do those, bring to get them there. They love free stuff. So have like a $50 gas card certificate, and have like a really nice restaurant that's close to their community. And some things that they can win as a raffle afterwards. In order for them to participate in the raffle, when they come to the meeting, they have to put their name on the sign, or they have to sign in on the sign-in sheet with their name and address, so that you can follow up with those people after, and then they can participate in the raffle. Because if they didn't win something that week, and you're going to be on the calendar every single month, they're going to show up the next month. If they haven't gone solar yet, like, maybe I'll win something this week,
like almost like a bingo game. They're like, I've got to go next time to win. And then you can, next time, maybe they'll even bring more friends. That's really fast. I mean, it's really smart, and it's simple. I mean, it's not like it's overly complicated. That's what I love about talking to people in the solar industry, is because in a way, solar is like, it's almost like the Wild West. There's not as many regulations and rules, and that's why a lot of people come to it. But there's a lack of like traditional business, ideas, and not many people are doing little things like that and presentations like that, or they don't view it as a good use of their time, when in reality, if it brings you one deal, let alone multiple or many, it can easily pay for itself. Do you believe in like traditional networking, like BNI and those types of networking groups? Have you done that in the past? Do you recommend that other people do that?
I personally haven't been a part of those groups, but I know they're super valuable. There's people in my company that get more than 50% of their solar deals from a local roofing company who's a buddy of his, and they all have networks of people that they know that they refer to each other for different services. So, I mean, I think that's super useful. There's I don't know if you've heard of agriscaping.
No.
Kyle? So agriscaping is where you basically live off of your land. You learn how to use your land to live off of, and you get as much produce off of, per square foot on your property as possible.
My wife would love that. She always talks about like, we should one day have a family commune.
Yeah. So there's a guy that was doing it so successfully in his backyard that he started having tours. And a wealthy dude came by and toured his backyard. He's like, hey, can you do this on a large scale? So they just built a 10-acre garden in the city close to us called Queen Creek Botanical Garden. And it's a 10-acre 10 acres of agriscaping. They have people come walking through there all the time, and they have a business model where they'll teach people how to farm off of their own land. And Kyle, do you think those people would also appreciate solar?
I think so.
Yeah. And so we went and we spent some money having a relationship with them, sponsoring one of their gardens. We paid a lot of money to be a sponsor for one of their gardens. So we gave a large charitable donation to the garden, or to help them do what they're doing. So it's a nonprofit, but the agriscaping is not a nonprofit. It's a for business. And we have a very similar customer base. People that want to do agriscaping are also going to want independence and self-reliance. And so solar is a part of that. So when we have, so we're going to put into our packets when we close a solar deal that people have a connection to reach out to this company to consider and look at agriscaping, and someone that can actually teach you how to do it. They can come do it for you. And then vice versa, their clients that are doing agriscaping are going to have material in their pamphlets that will lead them to Fusion Power, our company. So those are just some marketing opportunities that we can look for in the community. Like, hey, who has a customer base that's similar to the same buying morals that we have? And how can we find a way to partner with each other to help each other, share the product?
Yeah. And providing value to them. Right. And that's really what it's about. And not only that, but spending money and being a sponsor for them. I mean, that's something that reciprocity is a real thing. And if you're spending money, it's a significant amount of money, they're going to be appreciative and they're going to want to help you. That's one of the things with like social media that I think Solar Pros can do a better job of, is creating not necessarily that, but using social media to get referrals. A lot of people do it wrong, where they're trying to sell, and just like they go to these partnerships and they're trying to sell, like, hey, can you help me do this? Can you help me do this? Mm-hmm. And people want to help you, but a lot of times they don't know how. And then number two, you're asking like, hey, do you want solar? When a much easier question that's going to provide more value is, hey, do you know anyone who might benefit from lowering their electric bills? And forming it in the way of like you're looking for somebody is just very easy way to kind of start that referral conversation, rather than just posting, hey, $1,000 cash back, go solar now. Those types of posts always kind of crack me up, because sometimes they work, but they don't usually work more than once.
Yeah.
What is your thought or mindset when it does come to incentives and promos and specials like that? Do you guys ever use those? I know a lot of times
for customers or sales reps.
Correct. Either or. I mean, because obviously solar is something. I think it's always great to have like a hook, and those are kind of easy hooks. But at the same time, my belief has always been that kind of thing is really the cherry on top of the ice cream. You don't want that to be the ice cream that they're coming for. And so right. What is your thought on bonuses or promos or cash back and those kinds of things?
Yeah, I think they're awesome. I think they're great. The downside is that companies don't manage them well, and customers never get them. They're like, yeah, I was promised this and I never got it. So you need to make sure that you have a system in place to follow through with what you promise. Otherwise, it becomes a detriment, and you try to put this, halfway incentive system together that doesn't come to fruition. So having a good execution plan, but also making sure that, like you said, you hit it right on the head, is making sure this isn't the reason you're going to do solar. We want you to feel appreciated and let you know that we're grateful for, X, Y, and Z, whatever it did to help us out. So it needs to be, and it's really nice when it's something that's thoughtful more than financially rewarding, because you could give someone $2,000 or $3,000 and it's not going to move the needle, or they're not going to do it any more than they would for feeling thought of and cared about with the company. And there's a sense of endearment that comes from the appreciation of it. And then on top of that, people want to feel like they're getting a good deal. So a lot of people do want to buy, or they want to take action. They just want to feel like there's a special time or reason for me to take this action, and here it is. So just be smart about it. Don't make it tacky, and don't try to overcompensate a bad sales pitch or a bad company or a bad experience with this cherry that sucks.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I think I think it's a good option for you to give people when you want them to like take action now. Like, you know, they're about to, they're trying to, you know they're going to get solar, but maybe they're just not ready at this moment, and you can like do it in. But then at the same time, you have to avoid as soon as you do that, most people do it in a super salesy way, which is like, oh, well, you know, if you say yes today, I have this $1,000 cash back, and it doesn't really feel. It feels salesy, like you said. It's not personal. It's not something that they really care about. And then once you do that, it also kind of downgrades your the relationship that you've been buying. Because once you do that, you're the sales guy again. You're not the person their solar guy. Because I am actually. I know you use the word solar guy, and I've talked to some people on here that don't actually like being, or they don't want to be the solar guy. They think solar is a bad word, and I disagree. I think you want to own being the solar guy. There's nothing wrong with being the solar guy, because if they think of you that way, they're gonna, anytime someone brings it up, you're gonna be right on top of their mind. Yeah. I guess, that's really it, man. This has been a really fun and interesting chat. I feel like a lot of the things that I've been kind of talking about as far as bringing traditional business, being selective with who we hire, taking ownership of what all of us are personally doing, and the results that we get are all our responsibility. I feel like you and your business kind of really epitomizes that. I know you mentioned, I think, that you guys are expanding to Texas. If there's any reps or individuals out there that might want to talk to you or find out about your company or possibly work with you in the future, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, just on Facebook, Tyler McAllister. You can hit me up in the messages. I'm going to be speaking at SolarCon. I'm super excited for that. It's coming up. And Fusion's an official sponsor for that. So I have a discount code. If you guys want a discount code, hit me up in my inbox, and we'll send you guys a discount code for that.
I'm laughing because I was about to plug my discount code, which I haven't used yet, but I think I just got it, and Jake's probably getting it out of me. We'll have maybe I could probably create a link that'll like split our disc, like every other click will go to one of our discount codes. Okay, if you give me the link, I'll put it in the description of the video, and we'll do that because you've provided so much value. Obviously, SolarCon is going to be a blast. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and once again, doing those things that a lot of industries already do that maybe we haven't done in solar in the past, because we're like the teenager sitting at the adult table, and we need to finally grow up. So SolarCon's gonna be fun. I'm excited. Hopefully I will see you there. And I just want to say thank you for your time and all the value, and I wish you all the best, and we'll do this again sometime.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it.
What's up, everybody? This is Kyle Thumb. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. While you're here, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it. I continue to create content for people like you, and the only way I do that is if I know that there's people that actually enjoy it in some way. So like, comment, subscribe, and then until next time, let's go out there and let's grow.